Last week in Toronto, Ontario, the abusive process motion in the disciplinary hearing of Sergeant Dave Haynes asked the core question: were the actions taken against him procedurally and substantively fair? Or did Toronto Police Service leadership engage in an improper use of process? Let's dig in. The public is rightfully asking what is happening inside Canada's largest police service. While the Toronto Police Service is faced with explosive allegations of corruption, murder conspiracies, drug trafficking, and leaks to organized crime under Project South, a parallel scandal is playing out in a disciplinary tribunal. And it raises serious questions about whether internal processes are being weaponized against officers who dare to speak up about real operational failures. Staff Sgt Ernest or Dave Haynes, a veteran Toronto police officer, and yes, happens to be the son-in-law of Ontario Premier Doug Ford, is at the center of it. He's facing multiple misconduct charges, including discreditable conduct, breach of confidence, and insubordination. But as the defense powerfully argued last week, these charges appear tied not to genuine wrongdoing, but to Haynes raising legitimate concerns about officer safety, operational issues, morale, severe resource shortages, and the impact all of this has had on public safety. From February 18th to 20th last week, the TPS disciplinary tribunal proceedings saw Superintendent Anthony Paoletta, one of Haynes' former supervisors, take the stand. Defense counsel Bathsheba Vandenberg grilled him on whether he actually followed TPS policy when initiating 901 complaint forms, the internal misconduct triggers. Did he personally authorize them, or did he improperly delegate that authority to subordinates, like Detective Zhang Don, without the proper power to do so? The answers were pretty troubling. Evidence suggests that these multiple 901s were launched not because of clear misconduct, but right after Haynes voiced concerns about under-resourcing, skyrocketing mental health calls, eating up frontline capacity, and the inability to properly investigate real crime. Were emails and communications that could prove those concerns ever addressed? Conveniently, they're missing or unavailable, which is a pretty glaring red flag. Throughout the tribunal, the pattern of mismanagement became more evident. Paoletta allegedly bypassed direct private communication with Haynes, opting instead for public inquiries over formal meetings and arrangements. He delegated performance review responsibilities downward. And crucially, the bulk of the disciplinary engine seems powered by complaints from one single officer, a female constable on desk duty. What did Haynes do? He simply directed her to return to her actual frontline road duties for community policing, absent any documented injury or approved accommodation. She reportedly told him, "If you put me out in the field, I'll call in sick." And the very next day, she did just that. That alone should have triggered its own investigation. But instead, her complaint became the spark that lit the fuse against Haynes. And defense maintains that this isn't isolated, but rather fits a broader defense narrative. A sergeant who witnesses say, and within the actual force itself and his division, say he was actually boosting morale in a demoralized division, now targeted for doing his job, holding people accountable and speaking truth about a strained service. Earlier in the week, defense counsel Vandenberg exposed major discrepancies and conflicting records between the note-taker and the questioner, stemming from an interview with Haynes and his direct supervisor, Sergeant Sloan. Notes were conveniently not available, and then they were, and submitted late. Yet Haynes handed over a thick binder of materials to both Sloan and the note-taker, clear evidence that he was being transparent. A key flashpoint of all of this came when a comment was shared by Haynes that Sloan said he would, quote, "rip his face off," end quote. Prosecution calls this figurative, just tough talk, meaning more like he would be disciplined. But defense says, look at the broader picture. This was disguised discipline wrapped in procedural irregularities from the start. Former counsel Ian Johnstone even confirmed on the stand that TPS has been, as he put it, airing their dirty laundry in this case, while Haynes appeared visibly distressed by the entire process. Johnstone did note some prior minor issues on Haynes' record, but he said nothing justifying this level of discipline. What does any of this matter beyond one officer's career? Well, because it happens against a massive backdrop of Ontario's policing inspectorate probing damning corruption and criminal conspiracy inside TPS. The What We Heard report last year explicitly flags the weaponization of disciplinary proceedings against whistleblowers. Low morale, fear of reprisal, distrust in the chain of command, it's all there and documented.
Why today I am announcing an independent, province-wide inspection into the ability of Ontario's police services and boards to prevent, detect, respond to, and fortify their organizations against corruption and ensure integrity. Although this issue originated with the Toronto Police Service, we have since learned that other organizations may be impacted. And in any event, incidents like these understandably shake public trust in policing more broadly. It's important to acknowledge the real questions the public is asking and the potential effect these questions may have on their confidence in Ontario's policing system. This province-wide inspection will be conducted under the authority of Ontario's Community Safety and Policing Act, the province's policing legislation, and it will focus on 5 defined areas, with the ability to examine additional ones as the inspection unfolds. These areas are first, supervision and span of control, including how officers are supervised and how effective that supervision is. Strong supervision reinforces professional conduct and performance expectations, and it ensures that legal obligations under the Charter, human rights legislation, and other law is understood, applied, and proactively upheld to prevent breaches before they occur. Second, screening and vetting of officers, both at recruitment and on an ongoing basis as they move through their careers in an organization, to determine whether police personnel meet and continue to meet the high standards we expect, as well as the prescribed qualifications and suitability requirements.
Vandenberg and the defense are painting a clear picture, a procedurally irregular, potentially retaliatory process that misused complaint and disciplinary mechanisms instead of addressing Haynes' legitimate operational concerns. If the system punishes those who flag problems rather than fix them, what message does that send to the rank and file? And what does it do to public trust in policing? While the streets see rising crime and officers stretched thin, leadership seems more focused on silencing critics than solving root issues. The abusive process motion will continue and is scheduled to close this Thursday, February 26th, which could potentially dismiss the whole thing. But what do you think? Does this sound like reprisal or legitimate discipline? Let me know in the comments. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. Pretty clear that Toronto is facing a policing scandal that should alarm every citizen, and it points straight to a failure of leadership at the top. The service needs a reset, and if you agree, please sign our petition calling on Chief Myram Demkew to be fired at firethechief.com. That's firethechief.com.